Hey everyone, it's me Lone, hope you're doing alright. In today's video, I'm taking a bit of a risk. I'm trying to break free from the type of content that I've long produced on this channel, that being of course videos about Bethesda games. It's been so tied in with what I've done on YouTube since day one that honestly, I've been scared to do something different. I've been petrified because typically when you do that on YouTube, the algorithm can punish you a bit and videos can get really low views. And it's vain in some respects, I know, but I do worry and consider that stuff heavily. However, I still want to try something different on this channel. I still want to talk about different games. So the only way for me to do this and make it a success is to stick with it and just jump in the damn deep end of the pool. So if you do go on to enjoy this video, please, I would really appreciate a like. You don't need to donate to me, you don't need to become a member on the channel, but if you like this video, it'll help it push it out to more people and hopefully help it succeed. So if you do like in advance, I thank you and appreciate you. So today we're going to be talking about the upcoming BioShock game, and for simplicity, let's call it BioShock 4. BioShock 4 was announced by 2K a few years ago now, and since then we haven't really heard much about it. The publisher and the developer on the game have been very quiet, they've been hush-hush, and all we've really seen is rumor and leaks and speculation. So what I want to do in today's video is answer the question, what the hell has happened to BioShock 4? I'm going to be covering absolutely everything that I could find about this game and talk about my opinions to see what has happened with this game and when I think it's actually going to be announced. So again, if you enjoy the video, please like it. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new. But with all that out of the way, let's get to the content. Alrighty, so let's answer the question, what the hell has happened to BioShock 4? All of the sources that I talk about today are linked in the description below, so I encourage you to check them out. But let's of course start off with the first announcement tweet that was sent by 2K in December of 2019. There, 2K tweeted, "Today, 2K announced the founding of Cloud Chamber, its newest development studio. This team of storytellers has begun work on the next iteration of the acclaimed BioShock franchise, which will be in development for the next several years. Learn more at this link." And that link took you to a press release, but that press release is actually no longer there. You can't read it anymore. And I was initially going to read into that a little bit, but I've seen that with other tweets, other press releases, other reports on Take-Two's websites, a lot of those links are also broken as well. So they must have just undergone a recent website migration or a relaunch where a lot of these links just simply broke, but maybe they took it down for a reason as well. I can't say either way. However, we can rely on the articles that were written at the time to see what was said in that press release, and in particular, there was a line by David Ismailer, the president of 2K, who said that we can't wait to see where its, as in BioShock's, powerful narrative and iconic first-person shooter gameplay head in the future with our new studio team at Cloud Chamber leading the charge. Now, these announcements never confirmed a release date, of course, and to me, at least, when I first read that tweet, it felt like production of the game just started then. Like literally when they sent out the tweet, that's when Cloud Chamber was formed, and therefore that's when development of the game officially started. However, the global studio head of Cloud Chamber, Kelly Gilmore, who is actually still employed at the company, she officially started her role at Cloud Chamber in January of 2018, according to her LinkedIn. So you could assume that maybe the development of BioShock 4 started around then as well. The counter to that is that maybe at the time she was just laying the groundwork for starting the studio, hiring, arranging office space, negotiating with 2K, etc, etc. There could have been a bunch of stuff taking place before they actually started working on BioShock officially. However, there was a report by Kotaku sent out in 2019 after this announcement tweet that essentially suggested that the new BioShock had actually been in the works for years, perhaps since as early as 2015. The game was codenamed Parkside, I believe it's still codenamed Parkside, and 2K initially contracted an outside studio to develop it, that being the team at Certain Affinity, and they're based in Austin, Texas, and they've actually worked on games like COD and Halo in the past. However, according to Kotaku, by the end of 2016, 2K wanted to take the development of the game in-house, so they decided to pull the project from Certain Affinity, and allegedly this is when the game underwent some sort of development reboot. Then, as we know, Cloud Chamber Studios was created by 2K and then assigned with the game, possibly as early as 2018, as I said. Kotaku, though, in its report, said that Cloud Chamber was likely created in 2017, and it's possible that Kelly Gilmore, who I mentioned before, was simply possibly hired at the beginning of 2018. So either way, by this stage, excluding that reboot phase, we can say that this current version of BioShock 4, which is in development right now, has at least been in development since the start of 2018, so at least over 4 years. I think that's a fairly safe bet. Also, we know as well that it's clear that Ken Levine, of course the franchise's original creative director, is focused on his new studio, Ghost Story Games, and will not have any involvement at all with the new BioShock game. I don't even believe in an advisory capacity, but certainly not in a development capacity. He's not going to have any involvement whatsoever. And we have a few quotes about that. So one from a 2K Games spokesperson in an email said that Ken and his team at Ghost Story Games are fully immersed in creating a new unique entertainment experience that will surely be another incredible game for us to all enjoy. He is not affiliated with Cloud Chamber, the new studio, or the development process, so it's a firm no. Ken Levine is not going to be reprising his role or any role in relation to the new BioShock 4. Now, let's talk a little bit about the studio actually working on the game, that being, of course, Cloud Chamber Studios. As mentioned, they were created by 2K, they are an internal studio, and they're based in Montreal, Quebec. At the time of this recording, the studio has around 179 employees listed on LinkedIn. Now, of course, the real number could be more than that because not everyone has a LinkedIn page, though most people do in development. So let's say it could be at least 179, possibly up to 200. We don't really know the full number accurately anyways. Today, the studio is still very much active. They are not dead. They have just announced, in fact, a suite of new job hires on LinkedIn about a month ago, from animation to art, audio, core tech, game design, and programming roles. So they're actively hiring. They're trying to get good people to join the company to help development of this game. They are not dead in that sense. Also, the studio has hired various people who had worked on the previous BioShock games, and as an example, Jonathan Pelling, who was a designer on the original BioShock and creative director at 2K Australia during BioShock Infinite's development, he's actually the design director on the new BioShock. And Jonathan is definitely still employed at the company, according to his LinkedIn. Unfortunately, however, since then, we haven't really heard anything else major or official about this game. There was a report by 2K in early 2021, which again confirmed the game was in development and was going to be in development for the next several years, but that's information we already knew. There's been nothing new, nothing more official that we've heard about the game. Everything else, and everything else that I'm about to talk about in this video, is all rumor, leaks, and speculation. So keep that in mind as I continue in this video. Nothing that I'm going to talk about right now is 100% confirmed. So let's start off with the NVIDIA GeForce Now leak of September 2021. I don't know if you remember this, it was pretty big news at the time. And at the time as well, NVIDIA actually confirmed this leak was very much real. And in that leak, there was a bunch of references to both confirmed and also unconfirmed games, one of which being BioShock 2022. This suggested at the time that the game might have been released this year in 2022. Of course, this is yet to happen, and in my opinion likely won't, because we've seen very big game events come and gone where gameplay of the game probably should have been revealed and wasn't. So I just can't see it actually coming out this year. I still think it's 1 or 2 years off. However, NVIDIA did actually clarify specifics about this leak and said that the inclusion of any game on it didn't actually mean anything official, because the leak contained a lot of speculative titles and it was used only for internal tracking purposes and testing. And this did seem to be true to their credit, because a rep from 343 Industries, for instance, said that a similar listing for Halo 5 on PC was wrong and that they had no plans to bring the game to PC. So I'm going to trust NVIDIA on this one, that they just included BioShock 2022 as a placeholder and, as they said, for internal tracking. And then we have all the leaks from the allegedly reputable leaker Oops Leaks. Now, I cannot confirm whether Oops Leaks is legitimate or not, so again, take everything with a grain of salt, but apparently they do have a good track record, and they did, according to them, at least have one source either within 2K or Cloud Chamber. I couldn't confirm that, but they had one source that at one stage was close to the development of BioShock 4, and they were able to get information out about the game from this person. So take this with a grain of salt. Some of what they have said have actually been corroborated by other people, so I'm willing to believe that at least some of it is true, but again, take it on face value and we'll go from there. So Oops Leaks back in February of 2022 tweeted out that the new BioShock has development issues. The company lost about 40 employees, including leads. According to MyInfo, 2K is not satisfied with the project's results and pace. However, judging by Take-Two's recent financial report, the game is still planned to be released by the end of 2024. In another tweet in February as well, they said, "I've been told that some left on their own, some were fired for various reasons, and nevertheless, it's not a development hell, but rather a slight restructuring. The studio has already started hiring new employees," which is true, "and it's likely that the announcement date may shift for this reason." Now, again, there wasn't really an announcement date. Maybe internally they did have a rough date, but according to them, whatever date this was, it definitely shifted. Maybe this original date was in fact 2022, and the game did go through some troubles, but again, this is all speculation and rumor. I can't confirm it for sure. And then more recently, Oops Leaks posted a series of tweets containing information that they allegedly heard about the game and its development. Now, I'm going to summarize what was said because there was a lot of information, and keep in mind, I'm not including any of the apparently leaked logos or images from the leaks that I'll be talking about, because that's just going to get this video taken down. So here are the leaks in my own words. Number 1, there was a logo for BioShock Isolation and apparently internal presentation slides that were leaked from a 2020 Slack Messenger data breach. At the time, the game was in early pre-production, and apparently Oops Leaks source confirmed that these images were legitimate. Number 2, the game should have been announced at the beginning of 2020 and possibly at the Game Awards 2021. Jeff Keighley has apparently said publicly that it's his dream to announce a new BioShock game at the Game Awards, and I certainly believe that. I know Jeff Keighley is very passionate about the game series. And at one stage, according to Oops Leaks, there was an agreement for 2 years that the game would be announced at an upcoming Game Awards, and this technically lines up if it was going to be announced at the Game Awards 2021, and the game was first announced in 2019, that 2-year agreement does technically line up if you believe it to be true. Number 3, the announcement of the game was postponed due to staff reductions. Apparently, Cloud Chamber has lost about 40 employees in just 2 months, including leads. Now, I know that this is true because multiple people have confirmed it, and it was all contained on LinkedIn, so I'm definitely willing to believe that there was a little bit of an exodus from Cloud Chamber for whatever reason. Number 4, apparently we could see the announcement of the game as early as the next PlayStation Showcase or at the Game Awards in 2022. Now, of course, this never actually happened at PlayStation State of Play in September 2022, so the next possible date, according to Oops Leaks, would be on December 8 at the Game Awards 2022. Number 5, Cloud Chamber is not trying to finish the game quickly. 2K and Take-Two are more concerned with the quality of the final product and taking their time. Number 6, the game is very much still BioShock. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Number 7, the release window won't be announced until the devs are absolutely sure about the date, and the devs are continuing to hire new staff to help this, and we know this is true. Number 8, apparently the game is confirmed to be set in Antarctica. It will be an open world with a main story that has multiple endings, and apparently water will play a huge part in the plot. Number 9, the art style and graphic design is similar to Deathloop, with a 1960s British invasion counterculture vibes with psychedelic and trippy vibes. Number 10, the protagonist may be female. Number 11, the combat system is diversified with utilities and ability combinations, and the Antarctic terrain will have an impact on the combat. Number 12, some familiar characters from the BioShock franchise will return. And then number 13, this game is larger than the previous BioShock games. And at some stage, Oops Leaks apparently lost contact with their original source within either 2K or Cloud Chamber. So now a lot of the information that this person is receiving is probably fake. You know, in their own words, they say it's most likely bullshit, right? They've gone on to post this information, but they very clearly specified what is actually real according to their previous source and what is probably bullshit. So keep that in mind too. So let's try and sparse through this information a little bit more because it is getting a bit confusing at this stage. We at the very least know that the new BioShock game is going to be an open world game. That is 100% confirmed. There are both past and current job opportunities that include lines along the lines of, "We're hoping to find someone who can weave impactful, character-driven stories in an open world setting." The job adverts also share some other interesting information about the game, including how it's going to be a AAA, narratively driven FPS project full of character and personality, having designs for an urban crowd system and the systemic tribal ecology of sometimes hostile AI, and it's going to be pushing the envelope of what is possible with interactive crowd systems. The studio also wants to 1. Combine handcrafted set pieces with emerging AI behavior to create a living world that offers players variety at every step of the game. 2. Create a game with FPS combat paradigm that is accessible, satisfying, and allows for a high degree of player expression and experimentation within a highly reactive world. And 3. Accommodates various playstyles and design encounters that can be resolved through player ingenuity beyond direct conflict. Also, based on these job listings, we know that the game is going to be using Epic's Unreal Engine 5. There was a job listing for a senior gameplay programmer which said that the successful applicant would, quote, work within Unreal Engine 5, adapting existing systems and building new technology in order to fulfill the project's technical needs and creative goals. And then, interestingly too, we can go back to some of the leaks by Oops Leaks, which have since been corroborated by other people entirely. Specifically here, we're talking about the time the game is set, and also the setting of the game being the 1960s and Antarctica respectively. Colin Moriarty, in one of his Sacred Symbols videos for Patreon subscribers, said that the new BioShock game will be taking place in the 1960s in a fictional Antarctic city. And then Video Games Chronicle, who reported on this, even confirmed their own sources said the exact same things to them. So I'm actually willing to believe that this information, at least, is true. According to all of this as well, the game's going to be apparently tied narratively to the previous BioShock games too. And that itself makes sense because if the 1960s is the timeline in which this new BioShock game takes place, this lines it up perfectly with the other BioShock games because the original BioShock game was set in 1960 and BioShock 2 was set in 1968. And then finally, talking about the game's release date, at least at one stage, according to Colin Moriarty, the game was indeed targeted for a 2022 release. Quoting Moriarty directly on the matter too, he said, "It takes place in a 1960s Antarctic city called Borealis. The game is codenamed Parkside, which we know to be true based on Kotaku's article in 2019, and I've been told that the development team has incredible latitude to get it right. That seems and sounds right to me." He added, internally the game is very secret and apparently totally locked up. Apparently the inclination there is that they understand full well that this game will be compared to what BioShock creator Ken Levine does. And then again, going back to Cloud Chamber's job listings, we know for sure the game is not going to be set in Rapture. These job listings said that devs wanted to breathe life into a new and fantastical world and set the stage for a stunning narrative and systems-driven experience. So based on all of this, the fact that we have 4 different sources corroborating very similar information about the game's timeline, setting, initial release date, and also codename, I think we can be sure with a reasonable level of confidence that the game is codenamed Parkside, that it was initially going to be released in 2022 before Take-Two and 2K pulled the plug, that it is going to be set in the 1960s, and it is going to take place in a fictional Antarctic city, possibly called Borealis. And then for the final rumor and leak for this video, apparently the game could be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. This came by the way of host Nick Baker of the Xbox Era podcast, who shared that sources told him Sony is looking for BioShock 4 to be an exclusive release for the company. Now Nick couldn't confirm whether this would have been a timed or permanent exclusive, but he stood by his source. So let's get to my final thoughts. Alrighty, that was a lot of information, I know, I'm out of breath for sure, but let's talk about my final thoughts when it comes to the question of what the hell has happened to BioShock 4. To me, I think it's very clear the game has gone through a rough development. At this stage, I think there's no denying that. I think the question more is, to what extent has that development been rough? I think it probably does date back to a date like 2015. I tend to believe Kotaku's report that 2K and Take-Two tried to develop this game and kickstart it back in 2015 because it's too successful of a franchise for them just to sit on their hands and do nothing with it until late 2019 when they actually announced it. I just don't believe that at all. I reckon at some stage they tried to start developing this new game and it just didn't work out. And if we believe Kotaku, they tried to reach out to a third-party studio and for whatever reason it didn't work out and they wanted to bring the project internally. And then we know for sure they created Cloud Chamber to create the new version, all right? But even then with Cloud Chamber, it's clear there have been issues as well. We know publicly they have definitely lost staff. They have for sure. Multiple people have confirmed that on LinkedIn, people from Cloud Chamber announced that they left. And if we believe these people, there are at least up to 40 staff members that have left. Now, staff members leaving dev studios, it happens all the time. If it's like 1 or 2 people, to me, that is not a cause for concern. But when it starts to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then up to 40 people, that of course can indicate that there is some sort of problem, right? What that problem is, I don't know, but I think it's clear there is an issue with developing this game. Maybe it's because of the standards that Ken Levine and the previous team set with BioShock, BioShock 2, and BioShock Infinite, right? Maybe it's because of Take-Two and 2K's standards of the game. Who really knows? But it's clear that there are issues. And of course, the game was announced in late 2019. We've literally heard nothing else about it, right? If it was in a better state, in my opinion, we would have heard something else about the game now. Some small bits of information, some small bits of story, something like that. And especially we would have seen gameplay if the game was going to be released anytime soon. You know, if it was going to be released in 2022 or this year, as multiple, bits of that leak actually said, then we should have seen gameplay of it already, possibly at PlayStation State of Play or at an early event, maybe even the Game Awards 2021. We should have seen it by now if it was in a better state. But of course, we should expect that this game was going to go through a rough development. When you don't have the game's original creator involved, that being Ken Levine, there was always going to be bumps along the road to get this game out. Always. You should have expected that. I certainly expected that, right? When Ken Levine said that he wasn't going to be involved in the new BioShock or any kind of BioShock game moving forward, I think all of us definitely clenched up because we're like, are these new games going to be good? But we should have expected it. Right? We definitely should have expected that his management, his expertise, even though there were issues with that, you can read into it, but he had a big part to play, especially for BioShock 1 and Infinite. He had a big part to play in those games' success and why they were as good as they were. So when you don't have someone like that involved, of course there are going to be issues. Even though you have some of the original team members involved, right? You still have new people, you have a new studio head. Of course there were going to be issues in development, right? But I still want to keep the hope. I still want to believe that this game can be good, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say, no one else can develop BioShock and make a good game. There are so many talented devs out there that for sure the right combination of people can develop this game and make it incredible. The question more is whether Cloud Chamber has that right combination of people. And I just can't answer that question. I don't know exactly who's employed there. You could go on LinkedIn and see the names of the people and you can see some of their credentials, but are they going to vibe well? Do they understand BioShock? These are questions that I can't answer. I'm just trying to remain hopeful as a fan of the franchise, and especially because there is that BioShock Netflix movie coming up, that they really want to get this thing right, that 2K and Take-Two again have high standards of this franchise. I'm willing to believe that this game can at least be good and it's not going to be bad. And the fact that they're not just trying to push it out the door and that there have been bumps along the road and that they've accepted that and have pushed back the release date, I think that is ultimately a good thing. Of course, it's not a good thing to see people leave the studio and to see issues with development, but it is a good thing that the game is not just being released and we're going to have another repeat of Cyberpunk or Fallout 76, right? So I'm holding on to hope because of that. But that is what I think has happened to BioShock 4. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, this has been Lone. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.